Welcome to another episode of Positive Solutions for Life. This is Peggy Meyer. Today's guest is James Robbins. James is a leadership author, international keynote speaker, and executive coach. He's the author of the best-selling book 9 Minutes on Monday, and his newest release, The Call to Climb, challenges readers to rise into their true leadership potential. James is passionate about helping people lead from any position in life and create transformational change in themselves and their organizations. Welcome to the podcast, James.
Peggy, thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, I'm so excited for our conversation. Leadership has been a topic that has been kind of popping up lately with guests and in my own little, things that I listen to and I read. And I want to get into the book, The Call to Climb, as well. But first, can you start this conversation by sharing just a little bit more about you, your personal journey, and how it has led to where you are today?
For sure. I grew up on a small cattle ranch in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains and was this redheaded shy kid, totally an introvert. It's just interesting that I am where I am today from getting on stages, speaking, leading. So it doesn't matter where you start from, right? As long as you continue to grow and develop. But my first career actually was in ministry and followed in John Maxwell's footsteps that went there, then started a leadership development company. And so now we just do a lot of things.
Nice, nice. Very, very interesting. And I know leadership is something that I really want to touch in on, but I oftentimes want to know how people define it. Like when we're talking about terms and things, a lot of people have different ideas might of what that is. So can you like just be clarified on what you define leadership as?
That's a great question. And to bring up John Maxwell again, he was the one that said leadership is influence. And I think that's a great description, although I don't know that it's all encompassing.
Right.
The challenge is that we look at leadership under the lens of usually some kind of structure, corporate structure. You have a boss and we think that's leadership. But you can be in a company and be a leader and have no employees reporting to you. It really is, can you get things done through other people? Can you influence other people, right? And a lot of that comes down to, can you get the best out of people? So leadership is completely about, can you move people? And if you can move people, then like in a healthy way, then you're
Right.
probably going to be a good leader.
Yeah, yeah. So there, listeners are like all walks of life here. And, so I often tend to go back to what like most people can relate to, a home structure, family. How can somebody lead in their family?
Leadership is going to start with having some kind of vision of where you want to go. Whether you have control of what that looks like or whether you're just part of the team.
Mhm.
But often vision is rare for people today, even for their own lives, because we're just struggling to try to make things work, right? And there's just a thousand things going on. So leaders are the ones who can look at everything going on, but also look at who's all involved and see potential and think, hey, this is where we can go together. So whether that's as a family, right? A mom can look at the family and just be like, let's get to here, wherever here is for them.
Right.
Sometimes that's a financial place, sometimes it's a relational space.
Hmm.
And once we have that vision in place, right? Like once we've identified the summit,
Hmm.
now that begins to shape our decisions. It shapes the things that we value.
Hmm.
And then it's a matter of, managing the journey.
Right, right. Because I really like the piece that, you're trying to, the vision, but you're also like getting people to move like in a positive way, like collaborate, kind of like everybody join to try to reach this vision. And sometimes we feel like I think that, we kind of get leadership is that like, oh, the CEO, the boss, but it's just that influence. Like, can you positively get somebody to do something in the same direction, right?
For sure. Sometimes it's even getting your friends to agree to come on a trip together, right? It's just like, how can you influence them?
Right.
And so much goes into that. And so much even beyond the moment. It's not just in the moment what you say, but it's the prior 2 years of friendship that has that influence. So when you look at if you look at it influence alone,
Mhm.
right? Like there's different types of influence. So of course there's a positional influence, and that's when your boss says,
Right.
well, you just got to do it.
Mhm.
But when I go into companies and I work with people who are not yet, like, they don't have the title of leader yet,
Yeah.
or maybe it's the HR department in their department of one. So they have
Mhm.
no employees, but they have to influence the organization. And so one of the things that I'll tell them is, look, relational influence is one of the ways that you can create leverage,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
A certain mastery influence is you're really good at something.
Mhm.
But if we go back to relational influence for a moment, this is why I'll tell people in a company, Like if you're in a big company, my challenge is for you to learn 100 names,
Mm,
100 names.
mm,
And they think, why would I do that? Because 100 names means 100 conversations.
yeah.
And in those conversations, you're eventually going to find what we would call an affinity point, something that we have in common. As soon as I've done that with a stranger,
Mm,
now we have a deeper connection and I have a little bit more leverage with them. Also, reciprocity. So, one of the best things you can do from a career perspective is just build relationships. And I'm an introvert, so it's not like my nature is just to go out and hang out at the water cooler and strike up conversations. But in fact, introverts can do amazing at this
yeah.
by creating those deep connections. And
Right.
it's those connections that you need later on as you rise up the ladder or you start your own company to say, hey, can you help me out here? 100 names thing, you can totally learn 100 names. It's just intention, right? Like a
Mhm.
good leader on a big company should know at least 200
Yeah.
names. When you can remember somebody's name, it means a lot to them.
Mhm.
And it really does, it just takes intention. Like the more conversations you have, and of course, there's lots of memory techniques out there to just move that from that short-term place into at
Right.
least a longer-term phase of
Right.
doing it. Um, but when you think about like, have you ever had a situation where you've introduced yourself to someone who's, above you in some way, in some aspect, and then later on they forget who you are and you have to introduce yourself again? Like I've been in those situations where it's never fun, right? It's never fun
Yeah.
when you're like, oh, I met you before. Sometimes that happens to me, like on the road, I'll go, someone
Yeah.
shows up at a book signing and they're like, oh, I was at your class, 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, oh man, I just feel so bad about that. But when you're in a more stable environment,
Yeah.
let's say in a company where you're seeing the people
Mhm.
again and again,
Mhm.
then it's making that intention to do it and trust yourself. You will remember people. And some of those memory techniques are really work. Like I went to a memory workshop one time and then I just tried the techniques at this Christmas party where I didn't know anybody and I learned 25 names like in
Oh,
an
wow.
hour of just people that I met. Now I wouldn't remember them now, but right, like I
Right.
did
Right.
for the
Right.
moment.
But
But I wanted to say something about the vision piece
yeah.
because some people think, well, I'm just not visionary. A lot of vision begins with actually discontent. And
Mhm.
all leaders need to carry a bit of disappointment with them. It
Mhm.
sounds like a strange thing to say, but vision comes out of let's find something better,
Yeah.
or I see the potential here and we're not living up to it. So
Right.
what can we do? Right. So all of that comes from discontent. So
Mhm.
if you ever feel like, well, I'm just not visionary, well, I beg to differ because I'm sure you at times are discontented with
Right.
something, right?
Right.
Like if you
Right.
look around, you think, is this the best we can be?
Mhm.
Oh, if the answer is yes, okay, then great, you're smashing it. But if this is not the best we can be, then why do you say that? What's the gap? Where's the gap?
Mhm.
And then let's start asking questions. What could we do? Could we do this? Could we do that?
Yeah.
So I don't think vision comes out of just this moment of like, we're going here.
Mhm.
It comes out of we're better than this.
Right.
What is possible?
Right.
That's the question that creates vision.
Yeah. And I think that's something that everybody can like relate to because we've all been times like, oh, this isn't working. Like something is off. Something, I don't like this feeling, that discontent. Like I'm this, something can be better. And with that, we might not use the term vision, but we might use, hey, I want to get to a different place. I want to get a little bit better. That is a vision. Like it's setting a goal, not, in a vision is a little bit less than a goal, a little bit more broad than a goal. But it's like, okay, everybody can has that moment. And then if you are addressing that with somebody else, then that becomes the leadership aspect. Like, here's where don't we all want to get here? This is somewhere where we want to go. But how can like leaders like when you had said in the bio I read like what does it mean to lead from any position? Is this kind of what we've been talking about?
So vision is part of it, right? But then the other part is how do you get other people on board with
Mhm.
something? So let's take an example of like your iPhone. If you have an iPhone, the only reason that Apple created the iPhone was because there was a guy in the company, and I don't can't remember his
Yeah.
name, but he kept pushing Jobs to be like, we should create this. And he was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get into phones. But he just, through relationship, through the different things, just kept inching, inching, inching. And then all of a sudden, I mean, you think of what that did to Apple as a
Mhm.
company.
Yeah.
That one guy, I think he should get more credit than he does.
Yeah.
I should know his name, right? Like, I don't know his name right now. His name should almost be synonymous with Jobs because it was his leadership within a company
Mhm.
that propelled that thing forward. Hopefully, he got a nice bonus for that in
Yeah, no
some way.
kidding. 17 times. Are we up to like 17 versions of this now?
Yeah,
iPhone?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm a ways behind. I think I'm back at like 13 or something,
Yeah,
but
I'm not up there with the times either, but yeah. But just one person's persistence of an idea and a vision.
yeah, I mean that's in that case, that's what that was. But again, it's all going to come back to let's go back to the relational
Mhm.
influence because to me that's one of the most powerful. So inside everybody is this well, there's this principle of reciprocity, right? And this is well documented that
Mhm.
when somebody does something nice for you or they invest in you or whatever that might be, you feel this all of a sudden this debt. It's like someone just buys you lunch or buys you a gift and it's not your birthday and
Yeah,
you're like, "Oh my goodness, but I got you nothing." Right?
right.
Now we've there's a gap that's been created. Now I
Yeah.
owe you. Well, that reciprocity is really powerful because when we're teaching leaders, this is one of the main points that we teach is like
Mhm.
care about your staff. Just care about them. Because
Yeah.
as you care about your staff, which means just take a genuine interest in them as people, have their back, be there
Mhm.
for them. If their child is sick and they got to take some time off, like make sure they don't feel bad, like whatever you need to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that creates that reciprocity where they're like, why would I quit? I have a great boss. And
Right.
they're defining great as my boss cares about me. So
Hmm.
that reciprocity is so powerful. So you want to think, well, how can I leverage that? Not in a manipulative way, but just understand that
Right.
when you give into people, then it does set you up for an ask, whether that's to believe in your vision, to take a chance on something. Hey,
Mhm.
hear me out for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
anything like that. So
Mhm.
that's really the golden goose of influence is that reciprocity and that relational influence.
Yeah. And we can, go on about different examples and different, aspects, whether it's business, personal, friendship, family, all that, because we can get that example. We know we have that tug, like, oh gosh, somebody did something nice. You want to, in return, do something nice. And so there's that reciprocity, whether it's with that same person, which you kind of have a debt to, but it also with other people. It just feels good.
It does. And if you're listening to this and you, for the rest of the day or tomorrow, you commit to finding five people and do something nice, sort of like a random act of kindness. So let's
Mhm.
say it's like you live in a building and you see the same people in the elevator and you just start complimenting them, like just being nice, just being genuine.
Mhm.
Well, all of a sudden you're standing out amongst all the people in the building. Suddenly it's like, oh, there's Peggy.
Yeah.
Uh, or maybe they feel bad because they forgot your name and you remembered theirs, and then they're like, okay, I gotta find out her name again. But suddenly you're in their on
Mhm.
their radar just because you have been doing things that no one else is doing for them.
Right.
So that's another part of leadership, right? Is how do you get on someone's radar so
Mhm.
that then you can influence them? Well,
Right.
you influence them as you're on their radar.
Right. Right. And sometimes it feels like we were saying this, like, and I think that leadership, sometimes I'm like, oh, you want to really like, there's an exterior motive or an interior motive to try to like, how do you massage a relationship to have this influence at some point? But we're not always there. It's just being a genuine, like, nice human being and caring for others. It doesn't have to always have this
Exactly.
motive
And
behind it, right?
well, on that exact note, so this is an exercise I've done with literally thousands of people now, where I have them in a room and I say, "Who's the best leader you've ever had in your life? What made them the best leader?" Write those things down. Then I'll have people compare their answers. They share their answers on the board, and we'll put all the answers on the board. And then I'll ask them, "What do you notice about all of these answers?" And they're things like they cared about me, they supported me, they pushed me, they challenged me.
Mhm.
What do you notice about these? And someone will get it. They'll say, like, none of those are like skills or
Yeah.
tactics or tools. And I'll say, exactly, like, this is stuff your grandmother would have told you, be this person.
Mhm.
So this circles back to the point you made is that leadership is so much about being an authentic, good person.
Yeah.
And you can go a long ways with influence with that.
Yeah.
And all of us have had bosses that, you know, were not great people, or maybe they were good people, but they also just didn't know how to lead, so they got frustrated and cracked the whip and thought, okay, that's
Yeah.
the only way they knew. That was the only tool in their toolbox.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, being a great leader is honestly stepping into just an authentic version of you with confidence. And be okay that you don't know the answers. Be okay that you don't even know the perfect plan. But your job as a leader is to make the final decision and take responsibility for it.
Yeah.
Even if it's, get your team involved in that. But uh, at the end of the day, okay, all right, let's do this. Let's go
Mhm.
here.
Yeah.
And okay, great. That's leadership.
Yeah. I mean, leadership is just as simple as just doing what your grandma wanted you to do. Like, be a good human being, like, have manners, show respect, genuinely care about somebody. And you can have that leadership influence and that relationship with other people that, hey, yeah, okay, I'm gonna trust that person. I'm gonna, like jump on board, do whatever. But we can all have those leaders too that were like, we're not going to do anything for that person, right? Because they're
For
not
sure.
doing it that way. They're
For
just,
sure. Like I'll do the minimum. So
I'll
anyone
do
who says like, well, I'm just not a good leader, well, you're missing the point because I'm not a good leader is like saying I'm not a good human. No, just be a good human. And in fact, this is what the data shows, right? From Jim Collins back in his work studying the best of the best leaders, and the best of the best came down to these two things, right? They had a professional will, right? So
Mhm,
yes, they were driven, but they
mhm.
had a personal humility. They were able to be okay with who they are, okay that they didn't know all the answers. So when you can match both of those, it's
Yeah,
incredibly powerful,
yeah,
especially the humility part, because when a leader is humble, it disarms everyone and
mhm,
lets them drop their guards and lean in, and that's what you need. You want a position where, especially if you've got employees where they can disagree with you and you're not bent out of shape by that. Now you still might go your direction, but you heard them, and
mhm.
it's easier for them to get on board as well.
Right, right. It's just that listening. It's being that, just a good person. Just so it's if you don't think you're a leader, we're going to challenge that today. Like we are all leaders. But I want to I want to touch a little bit because I'm really curious too about your book, The Call to Climb. And now maybe we've talked about it all and I didn't even know it, but can you just share just a little bit about your new release coming up or if it's already out? I can't remember.
It just came out. The Call to Climb is honestly, it's unlike anything I've done before. And it's not a leadership book per se. It is in terms of you as a person. But the premise of the book is that from time to time, we get out of alignment in our life.
Mhm,
In other words, the life we're living is not the life we should be living.
mhm,
And when I say should be living, is because there's a deeper part of us, whether you want to use the word soul or psyche, it
mhm,
knows what's best for us
mhm,
and it knows where our talent lies. And when we're not listening to that, usually out of some kind of a fear, and we're moving down this road instead, the soul sort of tugs on us, whispers to us, and wants to have a conversation, but we often ignore it. So the call to climb is actually a fable written about someone who stumbles into this remote Bolivian village in the Andes, where there's this mystical mountain that calls people to have a conversation
mhm,
with their soul. Well, calls them to climb so that they might have this conversation with their soul. And so the whole book is about that. It's really about getting back to your true essence and
mhm.
having the courage, like really having the courage to find your voice and take back your life and live it unapologetically. And in the roundabout way, that really is leadership,
Yeah,
right? When you can get
yeah.
to that place.
Right, right. I feel like so many people are just so busy just doing whatever that they have a hard time, I guess, pausing enough to listen to their soul. I mean, do you and this sounds like a really good introduction to how to do that with the book. But how does somebody just what do you have to do to listen to your inner voice?
That's a big part of the story for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of that, right? Just
Mhm,
going along with life and being so busy and overcommitted and all of these things. And so, yeah, when you don't have those quiet moments, but if you're going through life and you feel that question sometimes in those quiet moments where maybe you're stuck in traffic or you're just coming back from vacation and you've had a little bit of time and something is just feels not quite right, like
mhm,
that's your signal. That's like the child tugging on your pant leg to
mhm,
try to get your attention. Like, oh, I need to start to turn inward. Now, turning inward doesn't mean a 3-day retreat somewhere. It can just be, I'm going to open up space, right? In the
mhm.
in the morning, I'm going to start taking time. For me, nature is always the place I can go where I can start to settle down and then ask the questions, what's really going on inside, right? You get away from
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah, and then honestly, it's having the courage to listen because sometimes that inner voice is saying things like, "Hey, we're actually not happy,"
Yeah,
and you have to listen to that
yeah, yeah.
uh, in a non-judgmental way and go, "Okay, let's talk more. What are we not happy about?"
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Because it's just, we have to kind of realize when those things are tugging on us. And we just have to make the time because it's not going to go away. It's going to continuously like come up. And it makes us kind of like disconnected, right? And it's just like, oh my gosh. So we have to look inwards and really find those moments to time just like, what is going on? And get back to what we are as like authentically us, which sometimes might take a 3-day retreat.
For sure, for sure.
But I know the quiet moments sometimes don't come very often. But I feel like journaling sometimes helps. I feel like just, being quiet, asking ourselves questions more. Um, Obviously, the book is going to lay it out for me if and the readers. But is that kind of it's really asking questions as well? Is that part of it?
It is, but sometimes it's even less active than that. It's just
Okay.
really to time to sit. So,
Mhm.
for example, and we're not talking like, oh, I had a bad day, so I got to go inward. Okay,
Right.
maybe you do in that moment, but it's that pervasive tug that's not letting up after, after a couple of months, and you're like, yeah, something is just, I know something's not right. Like we've
Mhm.
all had those moments where like something is off, but I don't know what it is. Okay,
Right.
great. At least we have the starting point. For some, it's going to be meditation. For some, they're going to find that through journaling. It's all about investigating. It's like being an archaeologist. Okay, we see a couple of things on the surface, so let's dig
Yeah.
and whatever tools we're going to use. So you mentioned journaling. And journaling actually was a big catalyst to this book because I journaled for years. And what I found maybe 8 years into journaling, the app I used to journal on, it had this new feature where you could revisit the same day's entries of previous
Oh,
years.
yeah. Yeah.
So I started visiting those, and something eerie started to show up, and it was that I was writing almost the same stuff on the same day, and I'm like, "What's going on?" Like eerie stuff, like
Yeah.
almost like to convince you that we're actually in a matrix, which I don't believe, but it was like that. And that's when I realized, wait a minute, my life is actually just looping. It's traveling in this large, massive, repetitive pattern that I
Mm.
would have never thought until I saw the evidence of it.
Yeah.
And then that's when you realize much of our life is on autopilot. And this is the part of the process of taking your life back is realizing that all of us are on these autopilot scripts, these programs,
Mhm.
mostly from our little life. And unless you get intentional and say, no, I'm going to carve out a new path,
Mhm.
you just stay there. Doesn't mean that you can't have a good life. Doesn't mean that you can't
Right.
be happy and be
Right.
successful. But if you want to live the most authentic life, it is going to mean going against some of those early programs designed to keep you safe. And that's going to create a ton of anxiety, a ton of
Mhm.
fear, a ton of what are people going to think.
Right.
And that's what holds us.
Oh yeah, because as you're saying that, that's the revolving thing, and I'm just like, how many times have I thought, oh my gosh, we're like the same thing over and over again. It's like Groundhog's Day, it's just like I'm dealing with the same thing. I must not have learned this lesson before. I'm like the same patterns are repeating, and it's like once we're aware of that, we can't like unlearn it. But the hardest part, like I think you're saying, is like taking the next step to doing something about it if you don't like it. Like if you take a risk. Oh, how do we grow? Let me see if I can make that 1 year thing turn into maybe a year and a half thing. Like that would be a bonus, right? Like to get rid of it for at least a half.
Exactly.
And so, like those are little things we have to be aware and how the awareness of that, of the stories that we've told ourselves or what we've learned from our past still affect us today. It's amazing.
For sure. That's why it takes some introspection. So it could be as simple as, okay, let's say someone listening, let's say you've always wanted to start a podcast, or you want to start posting on a YouTube channel, or you want to start posting online. You get excited about it and you do it a couple of times and then you stop doing it. Well, okay, there's a reason you stopped doing that. In a sense, you tried to break out of this orbit and then it brought you back in. So great, let's take a look at that.
Yeah.
And the key here is to be so honest but not judgmental about
Mhm.
yourself. And so you might look into it and realize, oh, you'll have all these excuses. Well, it's not time. I don't have the equipment. I don't have this. But really, at the end of the day, what it is I am worried that I'm going to put something out and it's going to look stupid and someone's going to say something. Okay, great. Hey, at least we know what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And that's a common program that
Right.
everyone has,
Right.
right? Fear
Right.
of being judged is why people don't like speaking on
Yep.
stage.
Yep.
So fear of looking stupid with the tribe. Okay, at least now I know what I'm dealing with. So now I can make better decisions,
Mhm.
knowing that if I go to start a podcast or post a video, I might start to feel this anxiety, but it's just this. And now I can choose, do I keep going,
Right.
or do I listen to the sort of shadow government that's been running my life and get back in place, right, where it's
Right.
safe. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I know we have those scripts. The fear of something is holding a lot of us back in different ways. And it's going to be something that it's not going to be a one and done. Oh, I conquered that and it'll never come back up again. Wrong, because you do something else, it's going to come right back around again. Like it just like itself right back in your face. So it's not that it's not going to come up. It's just like, what are you going to do with it? Right. So what are some like small little things? I know we've talked about some, maybe some new ones that maybe pop up in your head, but how can someone make like transformational changes, like really sustained change if they're trying to either, you know, climb this summit of, figuring out what's going on inside themselves or become a better leader or anything? How, like, what do you suggest for making some transformational changes?
Yes, that's a great question. So it's first going to start with, again, like, what do you want? Like answering that question, what do you want? Which is surprisingly difficult for so many people. Like, what do you want? Like,
Yeah.
what am I allowed to want? No, what do you want? Like, what do you
Yeah.
want? So once you get clear about that, what do you want and why do you want it? Like having good internal reasons, not
Mhm.
like, oh, I want to have a really big famous podcast so that people like me. Okay, that's a bad reason to have that podcast, right? So what do you want and for good reasons that are soul aligned?
Mhm.
And then just understand that the biggest enemy that I will have is the uncomfortableness of anxiety. And I have to begin to befriend it, because that's going to be part of the journey.
Mhm.
As Dr. James Hollis says, anxiety is the price of the ticket to life.
I like
Because
that.
when you step out to do whatever, you're going to feel that. And that anxiety typically signals like to your body, something's wrong.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then this is where you have to override and think, nothing's wrong, actually. Here's why I'm feeling this,
Mhm.
and this too will pass. And, of course, there's lots of different techniques to deal with that,
Yeah.
but just understand that's the road. But
Mhm.
no one wants that, right? What's the easy way? Or give me the so there's a lot of people that they say they have techniques to help you overcome that through hypnosis or subconscious stuff. And maybe it's worked for all of them. That's never really worked for me. At the end of the day, I still have to press through anxiety until I don't.
Right.
That's really the hard truth of getting up the mountain.
And I think the reality is that we all have anxiety, fears. It's not going to go away. Something will come up, it'll resurface, it'll be something else. So getting rid of the idea that we can be free of anxiety, that is like, okay, you're going to have it. Accept it. It's not something that you shouldn't have and you can, do this or do this and it'll go away and you'll never have it again. But embrace it because it's really just a message that you're pressing yourself out of your comfort zone. Like
Exactly.
that's what I mean, that's you're doing something that you're not normally doing. You're doing something that might put you out there. You might be doing something just slightly different that's like you don't know yet. It's a new thing. But it's just a message, just a warning signal. Doesn't mean you have to say, okay, warning, stop. It's just that cautionary thing that is a kind of pre-programmed in ourselves.
It is.
Okay.
It is. And it served you at one time, right? Like it was good
Yeah.
at one time, but now like many of the things that your parents might have done for you as a child, you've outgrown them and you've outgrown this as well.
Mhm.
And when you think about it, as I see it, there's these three core desires that we have inside of us. Like we do want to be liked and accepted by our tribe.
Yeah.
We do want to know that we have the power to control and influence our life.
Mhm.
And we want to know that we have something of value to offer.
Yeah.
So, the opposite of those are like the deepest fears we have. I
Mhm.
don't want to be rejected, right? I don't want to be powerless, and I
Right.
don't want to be useless.
Yeah.
And what you will find when you start to feel those anxieties is because you're pushing up against one of those three.
Mhm.
Sometimes, like I'm about
Yeah.
to get rejected, or I might fail here, and then what's
Yeah.
the message that I don't have the power, or that I don't have anything to offer this world,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? So when you can understand, that's sort of the matrix of those fears,
Right.
then you're able to still take action despite despite the anxiety. And again, as you prove to your body, your subconscious, that,
Mhm.
okay, this is not a threatening event. So it's like me speaking on stage, right? Like the first time I got on stage was as a 7 year old to thank a coach at a hockey banquet, and I did terrible. So it was like a reinforcement, like, don't do this. You just look stupid up here.
Yeah.
Well, eventually I took a career where I had to get on stage, and I felt so much anxiety. And then I ended up becoming a professional speaker. But even as a professional speaker, I battled it for a long time. So
Yeah.
now, not a problem to get on stage with 1,000, 20,000, doesn't really matter.
Mhm.
So I've moved past that anxiety, is what I'm
Right.
saying. It's just
Yeah.
all internal,
Yeah.
nothing external,
Right.
and you can conquer it
Yeah.
in that way.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, James, this has been great. I just want listeners to figure out, where do they find you? Like, where can they go to learn more about you, both of your books, just so they can get a little bit more information?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Peggy. The best way is just go to jamesrobbins.com. You can find me there. The new book website is iwillclimb.com. And sometimes that's easier to remember, but iwillclimb.com. And yeah, go check out there. If you connect with me somewhere like online on LinkedIn or something, just let me know
Yeah.
that you heard me here with Peggy.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, this has been wonderful. And yeah, go check out his website, jamesrobbins.com, and the iwillclimb.com for his new book, The Call to Climb. And so as we wrap up here, James, is there anything that you've left unsaid that you feel like the listeners need to hear, or if you have a thought or a quote that you'd like to leave them with?
I would say this, for years when I was in ministry, I had to do a lot of people's funerals.
Yeah.
And when you're doing somebody's funeral, it's pretty much there's a formula to the whole service. But basically, part of the service, someone's going to get up and they're going to read your eulogy, which
Mhm.
is all the different things you did and accomplished in your life. And it takes about 2 or 3 minutes. For the rest of the hour, it's people getting up and talking about you and who you were and who you were to them. And I
Mhm.
think there's a great clue there for us. If that's the final kind of event of your life,
Mhm.
then it shows you what's important. It's the impact you have on people.
Right.
And back to our conversation about what your grandmother would tell you: be a good person,
Yeah.
right? Believe in yourself, and just keep climbing. And your purpose in life isn't found in some job. Your purpose really is to bring the most authentic, honest, and an expanded version of you to the planet. And that's really your gift to the world.
Yes, that's truly a gift because we all are unique and nobody else can do it but us.
For
We have
sure.
our
Yeah.
special gift, and go share it with everyone. Somebody is waiting for your special gift to come to them. So thank you so much, James, for joining me today. It has been a pleasure.
Thanks, Peggy. Great to be with you.